Oh no, it's my turn now, right? Okay. It's not what I expected. And I always say I've been presenting for a long time, but I still get the excitement juice where the presentation, it's not nervousness. I call it excitement juice because it's an exciting time to get up and share information with people. Now, I do have to hold a mic, and I'm not sure how good I'm going to do, but I'll promise not to toss it at anybody. No Nicki Minaj moments here, but let's get into it. All right? So the first thing is, I want you guys to tell me who I am, because I don't know. I need to figure that out. That's a joke, okay? This is not a test for you guys. I'm just trying to see if there's some liveliness here. Anybody got a bit of excitement? It's not that early, right? Yeah, we'll get there, we'll get there. So, who am I? I'm a husband to begin with. I've been with my wife for about 23 years. On that note, we've generated some beautiful children. So I have a boy who's 22, and I have a girl who's 17, and that's the biggest part of me. However, there's another little subsection of that too, and I call them the little guys, because these guys don't want to spend any time with me anymore, because they're old. They don't care about me, but my dogs still do, and that's why I wear Yorkie socks, because they are my fur babies, okay? The other part of that is I still love my human children a lot too. And one of that, it's kind of hard to see, but that's me. I don't know if you can tell from the hairstyle, but that is me. And on my back, I'm pointing to Comp. My son is a professional esports player, and I'm an avid esports watcher. So that jersey I'm wearing is actually for the Commonwealth Games, and he went and represented Canada last year playing Rocket League, which is kind of cool when you think about it. One of the sports that didn't get impacted during the pandemic was that one. Then my girl, she's a cheerleader on the professional side as well, so I'm a cheer dad. I don't do any cheers, but I pay for cheer. I spend a lot of time at cheer. And if you'll notice something, I'm wearing a lot of green here. There's some green happening. Also green there because her cheer group also has the same colors as my company. And I didn't even pick that. Lastly, or not lastly, but I've spent about 2 decades in IT itself. Okay, so when we start looking at IT and what I've done and where I've been and where I am today, that's really what this is about and the journey I took. And I've been with Veeam Software for 10 years in a pre-sales entity. So, this is going to be the most words on the slide. I'm not going to read this. You can read it if you want to, but I don't recommend it. It's the definition of what pre-sales engineering is. To summarize it at the simplest form, it's a technical expert working with customers and products to solve a challenge. That's the simplest form of it. That's what pre-sales is. Now, pre-sales is full of multiple different responsibilities. And what I do today, I'm a pre-sales engineering manager. So that's what I do. I work with pre-sales engineering people every single day. That's my job. But I was a pre-sales engineer at one point in time. And what is the responsibilities of a pre-sales engineer? To begin with, I'd say one of the top parts is being a technical expert, or at least having a technical expertise. Then it gets into the ability of running through assessments and working with customers to solve challenges. That's what you're really there for. You're in to work and collaborate with individuals to make sure that your products can solve some type of challenge for somebody. If not, you're in the wrong room, is what it boils down to. Then you start to build it out, and what do we do a lot of? Solution designs. Putting those designs on paper that people can actually leverage them and use them. Then it gets into demonstrations. I don't know if anybody was at our workshop yesterday, but a lot of stuff sales engineers do is demonstrations in front of people talking about our solutions. Now, I got this one up in here. Darren's over in the corner taking a picture of me, and he's actually an SE for Veeam as well. And I got technical support up there. What do I want to say about that? We are not technical support. The total opposite of that. We are your, as in a customer, when I talk about that, we are your representation that when you have a technical challenge, we can help navigate our company to get you the best possible support, but we are not the best at technical support. Does that make sense? Right? We spend time on collaborating with you, hopefully building relationships, and you can tell Darren's pretty happy about that. And we try to educate. That's what I'm here even doing today, is educating just on pre-sales itself. Lastly, transitioning to post-sales, because post-sales is that implementation. Think of it more like moving from operations into operational, okay? But the main thing, what do engineers do? We save a lot of salespeople. Where it comes into, they've created a problem or a challenge, they've done it themselves, they've made the bed, we had to remake the bed, but we end up handling a lot of different things inside of our organizations, working with our sales entities as well as our customers. So let's get into the day of the life of an SE. And you'll notice I'm going to start using SE a fair bit now too, okay, instead of sales engineer, because I'll be getting tripped up, and I have another slide here that's interesting. But the day of, what do? We get up, we have coffee. Just like everybody else here. We get up and have coffee. Then we go ahead and we figure out what kind of fires are out and about. And all the jokes and stuff here where, you know, work from home, being a PowerPoint expert, and that's all I do is design. I'm pretty much AI from creating PowerPoints all the time. Battling the inbox. All great, but what we truly do is we get up every day and we plan. We work with our customers. We go ahead and figure out what we need to do to design the proper solution, figure out what our use cases are for our products to deliver the challenge solutions to people to solve their challenges, whether that's ransomware, data protection, it could be POS systems. Sales engineers are everywhere. But with all that pieces, what do you need to be a sales engineer? And that's a perfect blend of technical expertise and customer-centric focus. So you can't just be technical, because in most cases, technical is great, but nobody speaks technical. No one. We talk to each other as humans, and that's what the customer-centric focus is about. And that's where it comes down to key skills you need, and one of those top ones being communication. You need to be able to communicate appropriately and in the right sense. You need to have active listening. And I know I'm trying to be on time here, but I mean, we've all been at the point where we're sitting on the couch, late day. We've been traveling, we've been working hard, whatever. And your significant other is chatting away to you, and you're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. What did I just say, Rick? I don't know. I wasn't paying attention. I didn't hear a word. That's active listening that I was not using. If I use active listening at home like I do when I'm in a business meeting, I'd probably even have a better relationship with my wife than I currently do, because I'm listening all the time. And that's a major skill you need, I'd say in anything, but pre-sales, it's very big up there, because you've got to constantly be listening to the cues and not wondering what the next response is going to be, or do I have the proper answer to that question? You need to see, are you hearing what the customer is actually trying to tell you? That's a major thing. Problem solving goes into play. Adaptability. You need to be able to adapt on the fly, just like today. We're a little bit late. I'll adapt to that. I'll make sure I stay within the time frame that I'm given, and we move on to hopefully get everything back on track today. On top of that, and again, I'm not going through all of these, but one of the most important, I'll say here, is emotional intelligence. You need that EQ. And that's not about yourself, purely. It's about looking at other people's viewpoints. And what I mean by that is, you deal with grumpy people some days, you deal with really happy people some days, but everybody's going through something. Everyone is. So remember that as you're having those discussions, and that's a piece you need in an everyday life, but especially on the pre-sales engineering side when you're working with customers day in and day out, because we're all humans. So keep that in mind. Also, down at the bottom, actually I like this one too. Resilience. We get said no more than we get said yes. We're in sales. Not everybody buys Veeam as an example. I'd love if VL did. That'd make my job a hell of a lot easier, but it's not the case. So you have to get used to being told no from time to time. Right? Or challenges. Then technical proficiencies and presentation skills. I know, I'm lacking that, but I'm working on it, okay? I'm always trying to get a little bit better at those presentation skills. But you'll notice there's a couple of little things here that I have shaded. Almost, 1/6 of that entire thing is shaded out. What's the difference there? The difference is, most people will call that soft skills. I call them human skills. They are human skills, and that's what I agree with Simon on. These are things that you do need to practice, and you need to build up the skills, but you would think pre-sales technical role, you would need a lot of technical skills or hard skills, but you don't. There's not that many technical skills there because you already have the expertise built. In most cases, you're building this top part more than anything because that's where you're starting to interact with individuals and you're starting to learn how to non-communicate in a interesting way, and I'll get into that quickly. But the qualities that matter. Ego. Top one for me, and what I had to learn. Check your ego. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're probably in the wrong room. You want to learn from everybody. And take that to heart in everything you do. Try to pick up new challenges in what other people are laying out because there may be something that you think does not work that could be the solution to the challenge overall. So remember, always be patient with people on top of that, and even yourself as you're learning those new skills. And you're trying to figure out, okay, what's my next step? Let me pick one more out of this to move on. I would say the biggest thing is self-awareness. Knowing what you are capable of and what you're not capable of. Because if you can't figure that out for yourself, you can never figure out what the challenge is you need to solve to be a little bit better. I don't know, this, you'd almost start to think like this doesn't even sound like pre-sales engineering. It's more on human nature and how you can be a better individual and this and that. And I think if you take this stuff into every single role and thing you do in life, it makes life easier. But why does all this matter, Rick? This matters because of this formula. And something in pre-sales engineering that makes a lot of sense is this trust equation. So what's credible? Credible means, in my sense anyways, that Rick says he's going to, 10 plus 10 equals 20. You're going to believe Rick that that's the case because that makes sense. But maybe there's something that isn't as easy as that simple formula of math that there's no difference between. And Rick says, well, my product is the best product because. And if you believe me, that means I've become credible, okay? Then we start talking about the whole fact of reliability. If Rick says he's going to be at a place to pick you up, I'm going to be there because you trust in me being reliable, intimate. And the intimate in a totally professional manner, but this is me, Rick, sharing intimate information about myself and trying to build that intimate bond between two individuals. Now you add those three together, that number should be as high as you can possibly get it. Because then we get down to self-orientation. What's self-orientation? Well, let's put it this way. It's all about Rick. Rick's just here today because I wanted to talk about pre-sales engineering. It's all about me. I don't care what you take from it. This is my presentation. No, not the case. I want to share what I've learned. So you want that number to be as low as possible. And that number, of course, with the skills you've built and hopefully the qualities that you have entrenched in yourself, allows you to get that self-orientation as low as possible, that top number as high as possible with your credibility, your reliability, and your intimacy that you've formed. And it all takes time. This just doesn't happen overnight. This conversation we have here today, like Darren, I would hope I have built some trust with him because I've known him for 16 years. Okay, a little bit of trust. But all that equals trustedness and a trusted advisor. And that's what you want to become as a pre-sales engineer. That's the end goal. That is one of the hidden pieces of it, and the formula is that all those skills and qualities build out to do that. But, okay, we're still doing good on time. But what I wanted to kind of bring to light was my journey. I started off as an IT professional. I did computer science way back when on a rock called Newfoundland, and that's where I was born and raised and where I did my education. I moved to Alberta about 16 years ago, maybe 17 now if my math's right. But I got into the community and really started enjoying IT and did blogging and all these certain things where I was sharing information. Now, as time went on, this was my office when I started in IT. Not really my office, this ain't it. This is a picture I stole from the internet, but I had an office very similar to that. And these are the people that I love talking to, servers. One day, I get a ping on LinkedIn, of all places. And again, I was an early adopter of Veeam itself, right? Go back 12, 13 years ago, I was deploying Veeam in my environment, and I got one from a sales guy. Sales guy's like, hey, we're looking for an SE, and I'm like, what the hell's an SE? He's like, sales engineer. I'm like, no, I'm not sales. I'm not going into no sales engineering stuff, because that was my impression of what sales was. Wolf of Wall Street, greasy, just doing stuff, again, self-orientation-wise, doing everything for them, and that was not me. And they told me, that's not the case, Rick. You're going to be technical. This is technical sales. You don't have to do anything sales at all. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. So I made the change, and I went to the dark side. Now you're starting to think, Rick, are you trying to tell us not to go into pre-sales? Well, I'm saying just watch those salespeople. So I go to the dark side, and again, these are the people I used to talk to. Not people, they're things. They're servers. That's what I did. I'm an introvert by nature. That's what I am. And that means I get energy from not being around people. It doesn't mean I don't like people. That's sometimes what people think. It just means I get energy through different sources. After this, I'll go into a corner and cry and sleep for a little bit. And then, this is what I was tossed into. Okay, so this, again, is what I used to deal with. My first day on the job, the sales guy who recruited me over picks me up. First day on the job, to be clear. Before that, these are my peeps. Now, these are my peeps. And he drops me in front of an office full of these people. Never presented to a soul in my life, even just a normal conversation. Of course, I always sold, because I was selling to my directors and my CIO on the products I wanted and needed. But now I was selling something to somebody else. And of course, what did Rick do? Go all technical. Why wouldn't I? It was technical. That's what I did. I wasn't sales, right? And that took some time to get used to and challenge myself. Then, 2 weeks later, they're like, hey, you got to do a presentation. I'm like, what do you mean? You got to do a presentation. They're like, yeah, you got to present to, it's okay, it's a Banff. I'm like, okay. Oh, it's just the Hotel Mac. I'm like, okay, to how many? And they're like, hundreds of people. And that was my face. I didn't want to get in front of a bunch of people and talk. That's not what I was doing. I was a technical expert. And I looked at those people and said, oh my, I won't say the rest of the word. But it was that whole point of now I was challenged to get out of my comfort zone. And I did. And the hardest thing I had to learn is I was a salesperson. So what this all boils down into, I had to trust the journey. At the same time, it was my journey that I had to trust, but it's everybody's journey is a little bit different. So you got to trust your journey at the same time. And as we start to talk about this, sales engineers come in multiple different forms. So you got to figure out as you're becoming one, what do you want to do? And these are all the same thing. And that's why that guy's like, that's just an SE, right? And it is. That's all it is. All these different titles is just technical pre-sales. On top of that, you need to figure out what is your technical proficiency. And this should be the easiest thing because this is what you do today. So as you're becoming an SE, you figure out, okay, where do I stand? Do I do a lot of AI? Am I a platform engineer? Am I in big data? That's the easy thing to pick out. So what's next? As you start to go through these things, you want to build relationships, okay? And this is how you start to get into sales engineering. And I got my relationships built through blogging, community funds, and that's how sellers found me to actually even bring me over. I didn't even know it was a real profession. Okay, that's the challenge. But it's about reading, watching, listening, sharing in blogs and presentations, and just sharing your information out there. And I'm just throwing some of these up as a quick thing, and I don't know if we're sharing the decks after the fact, but it'll be a recording. But these are some great reads to let you know more about sales engineering, because in a 30-minute slot, I can't share everything that's out there, and it's a constant learning experience as it is. Then as we go, there's some podcasts to keep in mind that just keep concreting in the information. Again, you're not just technical, you're also sales. That's the biggest thing to lock in about it all. And then as we start to break out what is the hidden gem of it, and I know that's why you all came here, because that was the title, the real hidden gem of it is all the things you can get from it. It's very rewarding. It's one of those things where if you like travel, you can get it with this role. If you don't like travel, you can also get it. At the same time, you get to stay in an actual entire process, and what I mean by that is you get to be on the cutting edge of technology all the time because you're working with a company that's selling products or services that constantly had to be cutting edge, because if they're not, guess what? They're not going to last around forever. Plus, what I do like out of all of this myself is own your own schedule. You don't have to work a 9 to 5. That's what I like out of it. I work from home. Now, that's a challenge in itself, and you need to build yourself into working from home, because some people don't like to work from home because they need to be out. But you can go to Starbucks. You can go to a partner's office. You can go to events like this, spend time with your customers. The thing is, you don't have to do that Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. You can do it 10 to 2 if you want, just as long as you hit quotas and do your job. Nobody's going to ask any questions about it. Now, it's not all about the rainbows and unicorns. There's challenges. And what are those challenges? So the biggest one I'd say is expectations. And I'd say that's expectations you're going to put on yourself to begin with. That's also expectations your sales individuals are going to put on you. And also your customers. Customers have expectations, and if they're not sure what you do, they're not going to know what to expect from you. On top of that, technical complexity. Technology is not getting easier. People say it is. Because we go to the cloud. Yay! AI does it all. Ha-ha. But it's not easier. Now, instead of racking and stacking servers, not many people are going to data centers anymore. The majority of the servers that are kicking around today are in, 3 or 4 clouds. I'd say 50% of all servers live in the cloud. And we know where that is, somebody else's big data center. But nonetheless, we're not racking and stacking. But what we are doing is delivering applications to drive business forward, which is hard. That's the complex piece. We're part of everything now. There's no more iron fist of IT. We are part of a business. As you build it down, there's pressure and stress. Now, I love diamonds. Everybody loves diamonds, and I love diamonds because how they're formed. But that's what makes people strong too, is pressure and stress. But at the same time, you need to know how to control that, and that's where you get into that whole play, like Darren was on that event yesterday about the mental side of everything we do and mental health. And that's where you need to bring in your own personal policies and in play to make sure that that's taken care of. Last but not least here, but is balance. And I'm not talking just work-life balance. Cool, because work and life come together because we work to live. But there's more balance. You need to take care of your health. You need to eat right. You can't drink too much. I mean, look at me. I don't look like this. No, I'm joking, because I don't take care of my work-life balance. But take care of yourself, because that's the only thing in the end, when you're all retired, you're sitting on a beach somewhere, no company's going to care about you. Nobody is. You need to take care of yourself, but that is a challenge that all of these things, if you're not careful, can run away from you. But, to be clear, not everybody's gem is this. Everybody's gem is different. Like I said, I like diamonds. Somebody else might pick something else here. So even though we've talked about it today in pre-sales engineering and why it could be a good fit for you, you got to make that choice for yourself. You got to decide if it's something that you enjoy. Do you enjoy dealing with customers on a day-to-day? Do you enjoy constantly problem solving? Do you enjoy the whole fact of having to spend more time in design than implementation? Because you'd like to think that this presentation only took me 30 minutes today because that's all I'm here standing. It didn't. It took a lot of time to plan, prepare, to actually give this session today. And that's everything we do as an SE. A lot of it is planning. It's figuring out, okay, I've talked to this customer, I actively listen to figure out what they need. Now I need to build my use case of my product to solve their said challenge. And that could be done in a PowerPoint, that could be done in a demonstration, but it's got to be done in value that that customer needs. It's not about me. It's not about the sales engineer. It's not about the product. It's not about the service. It's about the customer and shifting that self-awareness and self-orientation and that emotional intelligence and taking those quantities and qualities, putting it together to lay out the solution for a customer, a business. So in the end, get involved in your community. Go ahead, put up, if it's something you really think you want to do, talk to other sales engineers in the business. And like I said, they got lots of different names. So find one. They could be called anything. If they work for a vendor and they happen to know technical things, they're probably a pre-sales engineer. Then share your expertise because you all got it. You all got knowledge I would love to have. Stuff that taken you years to build that you could, I'd like to have things explained to me like I'm a kindergartner because I'm dumb. So simplify it for me and you can do that. Same way I can simplify some things because it's common sense and common knowledge to me because I think about it every day. But we use this whole common sense a lot. That person didn't have common sense. They cut me off. I did that this morning, actually, while driving here. However, maybe it wasn't common sense to them because they only started driving yesterday. So it's not common sense to them yet. It's common sense to me, but it's not to them. So you keep that in mind. And again, back to, you don't know what another person is dealing with. So always think about that. Last but not least, just keep doing what you love to do. That's all we can all strive for. It's not work if you enjoy it. It happens to pay us. Make money from it. But we actually enjoy it and love to do it because you want something that makes you jump in the morning. I heard a great story once upon a time where somebody said, hey, if I said, got $1 million for you. It's like, okay, I'm going to give it to you. I'm like, okay. Like, no catches? He's like, no, not really. I'm like, okay. He's like, how do you feel? I'm like, pretty excited. Got $1 million. He's like, okay, one catch. It's like, what's that? He's like, you won't wake up tomorrow. I'm like, what? What do you mean I won't wake up tomorrow? He's like, you won't wake up tomorrow. It's like, okay, interesting. I don't want that money. He's like, okay, $100 million. I'm like, I still don't want that money. He's like, okay, so just remember, tomorrow when you wake up, you turn down $100 million to wake up the next morning, which is priceless. So, anything besides that? Any questions? I don't know how I'm doing on time. I think I did fairly well. And
so, you've talked a lot about the customers and the products that you guys sell to your customers. And
yeah.
I want to know how you guys collaborate with your operational teams who are talking to the customers on a daily basis, and they're working through the problems and supporting those solutions that you sell. Because the biggest problem that I have with sales and pre-sales is selling a solution the customer doesn't need or that doesn't, support them in the right capacity based on what we're seeing in their environment or in their organization. So who are you talking to and how do you make it work in Veeam?
So the way we talk and do, we have a post-sales organization inside of Veeam that trains our channel ecosystem, whether that's C2W, Soft Choices, Longview, CompuGens, and they are our post-sale arm who have another expertise and a skill set. However, to back away from that for a minute, in most cases, if what you were sold does not deliver, because you see that drawing sometimes where it's like, this is what we imagined. This is what the engineering and the sales team did, and this is actually what we got. That type of story. The problem is you didn't have a good sales team. I'm going to call that out, and you didn't have a good pre-sales engineer because they are your representation. They are the ones who go to bat for you. I work for Veeam, but I've walked into customers and also walked out and said, buy something else. Why? Because we weren't the right fit. That goes back to that credibility, that trusted advisor. Even though I make money by selling something to you, right? My job and what I feel and the way I'm even paid, even though I do have a quota of per se, and I am a sales individual, if I don't sell you a good solution, you're never coming back to me anyways.
So another question is, are you collaborating with the operations team or is that like kind of a no-no? Because I want to know if that's something that
We are from Veeam, yes. So we do our best practices from the actual field that gets filtered down to our professional services arm that then teaches other people. So inside of Veeam, yes. I can't speak for other organizations that are at a different scale than us.
I just want to know if that's what,
Yeah.
I want to see what other organizations are doing with best practice, right? So, yeah.
That might be called customer success in other organizations.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And that's more on your renewal side too, which is also pre-sales, right?
Or any good salesperson who wants their salt is going to be focused on customer success as well.
Yeah.
And with that is that I agree with Rick from the perspective of you as a customer. I've been a career salesperson for 30 years in my life. You as a customer will never come back to us if we don't steer you right correctly.
Yeah.
It's true. And then secondly is that if there's a problem relative to the solution that we sell you, a good salesperson is going to resolve those problems. And if they don't, at that point you know what to do.
Time? I just,
You talk about customer collaboration, and would you add customer advocate?
100%.
So, which is a little bit different, collaboration and advocate is more, I would say, post-sales.
I always keep the relationships with my customer, even if there's sales on the table or not. What I don't do is post-sales. And what I mean by post-sales, I don't do implementation. So I'd still work with a customer. They bought my product, right? I don't run away then and never talk to them again. There's some customers that I sold to 11 years ago that I still talk with on a monthly basis. But it's more around that technical account manager where I may have another solution that's beneficial to them and talk to them about it, or they may have a challenge that I'll be like, well, the best practice is actually this, and this product changed 2 years ago. You never updated, but here's that feature set you could use. So I would guide in that way.
Yeah, so that, we're on the same page there, but in the same sense, the customer coming to you, using your product and say, listen, you know, we need a change. We need your product, we love your product, but we need something changed, like a widget or
Yeah.
change. Would you be, you know, take on that advocate, you know, go back to the, you know, the sales team, go back to the engineering team, maybe go back to R&D and say, listen, I have a, you know, customer, I know ROI, and, you know, it's gonna be worthwhile.
Yeah.
Be that advocate for.
100%. Like, I try to be open as possible at the same time. And I mean, I'm speaking from Veeam and the experience here. Every organization would be different, but I have a direct line to our research and development team where I can bring in a feature and a function. And of course, we gauge that off of how many customers have asked. Does it make sense if somebody's like, we need to back up Commodore 64s? I'm just gonna look at you like, yeah, that's great, but that's not us, right? But if it's something that makes sense, I'm gonna bring that to the table right away and go for it. If it doesn't make sense, that's where I may challenge the customer at the same time and go, hey, how about this or this or this? Where can we meet in the middle?